Today we're gonna learn about cache memory. The agenda is types of memory, characteristics of cache memory, and example of cache memory. So before we understand this cache memory, I'll tell the different kinds of memory that we see inside our computer. The first kind of memory is the hard disk. It contains a mechanically rotating hard disk, which is also called as platters. It is one of a kind of non-volatile memory like hard disk drive. And if we see any commercially available hard disks which we get in the stores, the typical speed of these hard disks is 5400 rpm to 7400 rpm. So as the hard disk drive contains the mechanically rotating platters, the speed in terms of speed they are quite low. So even though if the processor is capable of accepting a data much higher speed, but it cannot act it cannot get the data through this hard disk drive at the same rate. That's where the second kind of this disks come into the picture. The second kind of memory comes into the picture, that is random access memory. It is faster compared to the hard disk, and this RAM can provide data to the CPU at a much faster rate compared to the hard disk drive, but still it is slower than the clock speed of the CPU. So the typical speed of RAM is uh, 400 megahertz up to 800 megahertz. Still it is lower than the clock speed of the CPU. So the modern day processor contains multiple processors, multiple cores, in which it can be a dual core, quad core, or even octa core. If all these cores are asking for the data at the same time from the memory, then this RAM cannot provide that much data at the same time. That is where the cache memory comes into the picture. So this cache memory is the fastest among all these kinds of memory, and it is also called as RAM, but it is a special kind of RAM. It is a static RAM, not a dynamic one, which we find inside normal random access memory. The static RAM is quite faster than the other memories. The typical size of this cache memory is in the range of kilobytes up to megabytes. So the data which is frequently required by the CPU can be supplied to this cache memory. So generally some instructions or some data which is required by CPU is stored inside this cache memory. The cache memory's access time is lesser than the access time of main memory. This cache memory is fastest and component in the main memory hierarchy itself and approaches the speed of CPU components. So the characteristics of the cache memory is the size of cache, the size block, when combined with the size of cache defines the number of lines and the number of caches. There are many other characteristics apart from these. Those are the mapping function, the link between a block's address in a memory and its location in the cache. Usually this cache memory is located between main memory and the CPU. The replacement algorithm and the write policy are all the characteristics of cache memory. And the example of this cache memory is this is how it looks like. Thank you.